things aren't scripted, like people say.
Okay.
The only thing that is scripted in the wrestling world is when you have multi-million dollars of backing behind whatever it is. John Cena is like a perfect example of that. You are not going to have John Cena go on the road for 330 days out of the year and get literally punched in the mouth every single time.
Yeah.
He's worth way more to you for that. You need him for commercials. You need him for his movies that he's doing. You need him for Make-A-Wish. You need him for all that. But when it comes down, like after that superstar level, it's almost anything goes. You guys... At some levels, you get an agent that kind of listens to how you put together the match or the story that you want to tell, and you go from there.
So is who wins
not all the
selected?
time.
That was my
not all the time.
That was my next question.
There are times, depending on what they want to protect, the storyline that they want to build, especially if it's TV. I mean, TV, you want to be able to build your narrative. And if they want a certain person to go over or something like that, it can happen. Also, that is not 100%. I've been in the ring several times where I hear from the referee, hey, we're going with a different finish. Go ahead and pin him. Cool. And like that is what it is. But
How are we feeling today, boys?
Great.
sensational.
In a different setting for the first time ever.
By the time this uploads, Rocket League is going to be playing that weekend. So Rocket League plays this Friday.
Rocket League plays this Friday, brand new roster. By
Brand new
this time,
roster.
have we?
Oh,
by this time,
this
we've
is the
already
this will be the announcement.
we've already
podcast.
made the announcement.
Yes, it's
So-
gonna come out Monday.
Okay,
So you guys will already see our new player, Hunter.
we have
And we
Hunter
brought back
joining the
one and
squad.
only.
15-year-old prodigy, dude. When I saw his Kobe Avi on
Yeah, you
Twitter,
knew it was game over.
yeah, I was like, GG's.
Yeah,
bro.
he has that on Discord too. He's actually diehard about Kobe.
Mamba
Oh, okay,
mentality, bro.
okay.
And
Yeah,
he's
I
from
brought up-
Australia.
I brought up basketball to him last night on our call, and he like freaked out. And then all of his Scrub and Banana Head were like, "Yeah, he fucking loves basketball."
It's also yesterday was the anniversary. Well, as on the day we're
was.
shooting this, it was the 3-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant's
Yeah.
passing. So,
Yeah.
man, what a
Yeah,
day.
and I dropped some Mamba mentality type of motivation to him, and then I didn't even realize it was Kobe's anniversary. And they were like, "Oh hell yeah, you dropped it on
It's in
Kobe's
the air,
anniversary,"
yeah.
and I was like, "I didn't even know," but I just went along with it. I'm like, "Damn right, I did." Yeah.
And then bringing back JG as coach. He was here, if you've been following us for a minute, back in the OG Rocket League days of Rapid Beast Mode of Memory, JG was a coach. And we're just hoping to make some waves this split and not get dead last at LAN, hopefully. I'm ready for it, though. I'm excited. But today we have episode number 8 of the main story. We have Kingston Robinson, a.k.a. Adrian Armour, a.k.a. the longest reigning.
Okay.
Damn, bro, I always forget, bro. Longest reigning champion in the Southwest to this day.
Southeast.
Oh, that's right, Atlanta, bro.
It's hard
Fuck.
because we're like from the
Yeah.
we're not from
Yeah.
the Southwest.
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
from the Midwest.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we got a guy who does a lot of different things on the pod today. It's nice being like back in the host seat versus the guest seat. I don't know which one I prefer more, but I'm excited either way. And I mean, we could just get right into it. So as I kind of introduce you a little bit, and those people, I've seen you on the pod here and again in the last few episodes, but just kind of tell us about yourself, man. Like you have a lot of shit going on. You've done a lot of shit. You're doing a lot of shit, from wrestler to content creator, to beat producer.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, man, who is Kingston Robinson or Adrian Armour?
Or GameArmourGame.
GameArmourGame.
Or the longest
reigning champion
champion in the Southeast
to this day.
to this day.
Oh, man. Well, he's a lot of those things. 29 years old, born in Sulzbach, Rosenberg, Germany. Both my parents were in the army, so that's part of the reason why I was in Germany at the time. Then once moving to the States, just kind of moved around the South for a minute there. I was in Columbia, South Carolina, in Georgia, got family out here, Kansas, Arkansas. And then I also lived, New Orleans, a little bit in Florida for some time, a lot, but settled down in Georgia, about 40 miles outside of Atlanta, so East Atlanta. And cut my teeth there. I mean, cutting your teeth in the South is something different. I applaud it, but I also was like, if I had a chance to do it again, it probably wouldn't be the South. At least.
Why not?
Oh man. Well, to be very transparent, being black and educated in the South is it's still a rarity at this point. Not to anyone's fault besides like a lot of people just feeding into stereotypes, and that's on both ends. It's not just like on one end and on the other. It's literally both ends. Some people cave into it and other people like literally pour gasoline on it. And coming from, two military parents, so we were doing pretty decent. I mean, we weren't well off, but we weren't in a lot of the troubled situations that I saw a lot of people, especially of color or in that area, because my parents kind of lived in the boonies for a while. And before living in the country was cool, it was nothing to do. And then, of course, like the city started to integrate where my parents were, and there's a little more life going on. And school, it was like small town school. So football, like we talked about before, shut down the whole county. And it was Friday night lights, and if we weren't at a football game, then we were trying to make it to some dumb sport that we invested too much money in, like a golf meet or something like that. I'm like, well, how do we have a golf team with 3 members, but the football team's trying to get pads? Like, it's baffling. But, I mean, the South, you go through some things that, like, I know now in a lot of places I would never go through, or conversations that I've had that I know I would never have to have now. And I hate it because a lot of people are like, oh, the South is in a time capsule. And it kind of is. Like, being outside of it for a lengthy amount of time for the first time in my like adulthood, I'm like, yeah, it kind of is in its own time capsule, because some of the things that I've experienced or some of the conversations that I've had, it's 2020, what is it, 2023, 4, something like that. I know I would never happen with anyone else.
Really?
It's nuts. Yeah.
That's interesting. You very briefly touched on like a lot of different things there that I have in my notes that I want to dive deeper into. But I think first things first, obviously you said you're born in Germany. Mm-hmm. God damn it. I'm the realist. Shout out Iggy Azalea. Yeah. One hit wonder? She have more than one hit?
I mean, she had a couple hits.
She has a hit right now, it seems like. But
shit.
She's probably getting hits every night.
We're going there.
Sorry, never mind. I'm gonna cut that out.
Anyways, you said born in Germany, very quickly moved to the States, and you moved to a lot of different states. But one of the things that I had on my notes today was that your dad introduced you to video games at a very young age with a Sega Genesis?
Yeah.
Is what it was?
He had a Sega Genesis, and then he bought another one for me. But he introduced me to games with his Atari. Okay. So he had an Atari that like literally only he would set up and play, because who else is going to sit there and play Pong with him? Which now, being an adult, I totally understand that, like, with military pressure and like day-to-day job, having 3 kids, moving around all the place, if you just want to sit down and play some Pong and relax, it's probably a good move. And I definitely understand that now versus like when I was a kid. I was just like, you just gonna play this boring ass game? But that's how I got introduced. And then he bought a second Sega Genesis so that me and my sisters could play, so he could still have his. And then that's when I got into like Sonic the Hedgehog and started playing that. Then Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3, Ultimate Alliance. And then I was hooked. I had every Sonic game, every Mortal Kombat game, Batman games, Ninja Turtle, like all of it on Sega Genesis.
I was going to ask, like, since you've been gaming for so long, like I think all of us have, like what was the first game that like made you feel like passionate about video gaming, I guess? Because for me, when I was younger, I have an older brother who's 9 years older than me, and like my first experience with video games was like Super Mario Bros. And Street Fighter and all those games on the Super Nintendo, and but I didn't really get passionate about gaming until like Black Ops in like 2010. And when I've like experienced online gaming for the first time. other than that, like, it was cool, but it was never really something that I saw myself like being passionate about and working in, and so that didn't come until a little bit later. But like, what was it for you, if you remember?
Honestly, if it was Streets of Rage on Sega Genesis.
I never even heard of that. Have you?
No.
It's a side scrolling like beat 'em up type game.
Okay.
It was the first game that invoked tears from me, and it was the first game where like once I beat it, you would have thought I won the Olympics. Because me and my sister, of course, this is Sega Genesis. There's no saves. There's no anything like that. So if you're going to beat a game, you have to commit the day to sit there and beat it. And we just sat there and like anytime we would lose a life, we would like pass the controller back and forth and try to beat this game. And then finally we had got to the last level, which is like every incredible fight movie has like an elevator scene, and you have an elevator level where just like AIs are just dropping on you and you have to fight them in this like 6x6 circle going up until you finally get to like the final boss. And I remember there was 2 times that we lost all of our lives on the elevator and had to start over, and we lost it. And then it was the first time I also felt like a full regame where we're like, okay, we're going to beat this game because we were right there. And then we went and beat it. And like I said, you would have thought we could have popped bottles. We could have went crazy because that game right there, oh my Lord. And then they put a remastered version of it on the Xbox Game Pass. And I played like halfway through and I was like, there's no way we beat this game. Like as an adult, I'm sitting here like, how did we figure this out? Because this shit is hard. But yeah, Streets of Rage was probably the first one. And then after that, like I got my PlayStation and PlayStation 2, and then that's when, of course, gaming started to turn up. The online factor became a thing. I got my Xbox with my network adapter and then jumped into some Halo 2 lobbies and started having fun. And then it just started spiraling from there.
It's interesting because you mentioned you're 29. Mm-hmm. I'm 24. You're 22. You just turned 22.
Yeah.
So even though we've all experienced a lot of the same things probably in gaming, like we all probably had a very different experience when it comes to how we started.
Yeah.
Like what was yours?
Mine, I started playing, well, my very first game was like Shaun White snowboarding on PlayStation 2.
Damn. Hell yeah.
And then as time went on, just playing PlayStation 2 and a couple of games on there, I forgot now, but I eventually got an Xbox 360 because that was popping at the time. And Gears of War 2 was like my first grind with my brother because we didn't have internet at the time. That's the biggest thing that I realized when I was a kid, and compared to the kids nowadays, like I didn't have internet. There was a time the first like 11 years of my life until I was like 12 or 11, I did not have internet.
Facts.
So
Same though.
So we would just grind co-op games. So it was like Gears of War at first, and then Assassin's Creed got into my life with Assassin's Creed 2.
Man.
So that shit took over for a while, so I was just grinding that, and I just remember I would be able to play like multiple levels on repeat.
Yeah.
And it's so wild to think about because today is like, it's just like, I feel like it's just that kid brain because the world is so small at first. When you're playing a video game for the first time, you can just play it over and over again.
Yeah.
Because I remember, sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off,
you're
but like I remember playing Halo 2 without internet on the original Xbox, and I would just be in custom games. Yeah. And I was learning super bouncing. Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing, bro. Like we didn't have internet, and I was when I was a Christmas noob during Black Ops 1, like my parents got me a PS3 and the game for Christmas. We didn't have internet. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? Yeah. So I load up like Nuketown, put on bots, and I'm like, a month of that, I'm like dropping 12 attack dogs, like going 150 against bots. I'm like, Mom, Dad, can we get some internet, please? Like, so then eventually we got internet, and then you unlock the whole online aspect of everything, and it's just like that unlocks a whole new world of it. And then when I learned, like, I just remember learning about online gaming, and then just same thing in pubs. Like, you get to a point where you just dropping bombs on these kids, and you're like, okay, let me look up how to make money from like tournaments and stuff like that. And then that opens the whole world of esports and competitive COD, and that's really where it all started for me specifically. But yeah, man, good memories.
Absolutely. I mean, hell, it's funny that we talk about like how we've experienced our origins of gaming, because like y'all mentioned not having internet. Consoles couldn't even connect to internet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very used to like loading up Mortal Kombat. This is going to be the same shit every single time.
Yeah.
Or like,
character's broken? Sorry, it's going to stay that way.
Bro, oh man, who was just talking? Matter of fact, it was when I was editing last night. It was something that you had said. You were like, man, I remember when we used to play COD and like the weapons that dropped in the game were the weapons that dropped in the game. There was no balancing.
Yeah.
There was no, bro, every fighting game, there was somebody, if not two people that were just completely broken in the game. They had like 3 mechanics. And no matter what, since there was no online play, when you see them in campaign, you know it's over with because they're just going to spam that same thing. It doesn't matter who coded this computer to play like this. It's going to play like that.
It's facts.
And it's wild because I hate that the video game industry turned in that direction because sometimes the glitches and the bugs made the game.
Yeah,
You know
that's a
what I
fact.
mean? Like super bouncing in Halo, like we were just talking about. Like Halo, like Bungie didn't remove any of that until like the remastered versions.
I mean, for FPS games specifically, like you're always gonna have one weapon that's better than another. So what's the point in nerfing and upgrade, like to try to make everything balanced?
Yeah,
there's
like
gonna
how,
be something that's better.
Like how Halo Infinite nerfed how much velocity you have when sliding down stairs.
Like why?
Like that made the game flow so much faster, and it made it. There's just more skill gaps with it, and that's what makes competitive games. Sometimes are the bugs and the glitches that are in the game.
Yeah.
100%. So I feel like Matt and I have a little bit more similar upbringing just in the esports and online gaming world. Whereas for you, it seems like, as I was doing a little bit of digging yesterday, like you obviously came up as like you were used to being on camera, but for a different reason. And that reason is like competitive wrestling, professional wrestling.
Yeah.
So like, how did that whole thing get started? Like, when did you discover, was it WWF? Was it a different program? Like, where did you develop the passion for professional wrestling?
Wrestling origin story.
Yeah. I've been waiting for this.
Well, so I've always loved professional wrestling. And it came in a point in my life where like I didn't expect it to. My older sister was actually the pro wrestling fan in the house. And just like most women, from sisters to moms to whatever, most of the time their room is kind of like off limits. That's just their spot.
For sure.
But I remember walking past my older sister's room and like SmackDown was on the TV, and I was like, "What's going on?" And it was like Rock just talking shit to Big Show, and I was like, "What is going on right now?" And during that time, like I hadn't really found, I was a kid. I didn't really find who I was or anything like that. And I also, since my parents weren't super big on like TV, the most that I watched for like entertainment was either like Saturday morning cartoons or whatever movies we had on our VHS collection or whatever. So seeing that like on TV, I was like, what is even happening right now? And then lo and behold, like more and more, like that ended up being the thing that me and my sister bonded over a lot. So like we started watching wrestling together, and then that really grew really close to me as a kid. But then I fell off kind of like everyone else did, where it was like, oh, this is fake, or oh, they're doing this and doing that. So I kind of fell off because I thought it was like I was supposed to. It was something that I was supposed to grow out of, like almost everything else we watched as a kid. And then I was
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob.
Ain't none of us are growing out of that.
Yeah, that's that. Well, because SpongeBob was like crafted for the in between. Like there's a lot,
which is so wild because it was on Nickelodeon. Anyway,
Yeah.
So keep going with that.
But I got to a point in my life personally where my parents really weren't on the same page. My household wasn't really like the most fantastic place to be. And wrestling really gave me the like, I hate saying escape, but it basically was an escape for me to like be in a whole different reality, see a whole bunch of different personalities and dive into like the storylines of that. And then as I'm doing that, I'm being mystified by all of this athleticism. And then of course my childhood coming back into it. And I'm like, oh, I remember this person. I remember this person. And then it started to fester and it started to grow. And at first I was like a low key, like wrestling teenager fan. Like I was like, no, everyone still thinks this shit is whack. So I'm not going to put this out. But then like, as it started to grow, I was like, really, who cares?
Yeah.
Because, okay, if you don't like something that I don't watch and you treat me differently because of that, like, bro, you're tripping. You got to figure out what you like to do at least.
Facts.
So then, of course, I start wearing the wrestling T-shirts out, and like I'm doing my thing. And me and my little sister, she became a wrestling fan because of me. So it's kind of like we passed it down to each other.
Yep.
So there would be times where we're in the backyard on the trampoline, and we'd bring my sister's karaoke machine out, and we would do all the entrances, and we would like intro ourselves, and then go out to the trampoline. And me and my sister would have like, and no cap, this is coming from someone that's been in the ring. We've had like 5-star classics of just like us being she's an athlete herself too. But so that was always there. And then like after school and finishing up college, and I went straight into work and started working way too many jobs, way too young. But I had a whole bunch of people hit me up and be like, yo, there's a wrestling show happening like 10 minutes from you. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I'm looking up like Raw tickets and stuff like that. Like, there's nothing coming to this little ass town. Like, what are you talking about? And that's when I found out more about independent wrestling.
Okay.
And they're like, no, there's like a big indie show. They're doing like a double steel cage match and all that. Like, you should pull up. So find out it's like 10 minutes from my parents' house. So after I got off work, I went and changed, called some friends, be like, yo, let's just go up to the show, see what it's about. Nothing else happens in this city, so why not? And we went there, and like almost every roster member, after they got done with their like with their matches and stuff, they walked by and they like kept staring at me, and I'm like, bro, am I tripping, or are these people like eyeing me every time that we come out? And during intermission,
how old were you at this time?
Like 17, 18. Yeah.
Damn.
So at intermission, two of the guys came up to me and they're like, bro, you're way too big to be like sitting in the crowd and watching us. And at that point in time, like I said, 18, 19. So I was like 195 pounds maybe. And they were like, yo, you know, are you a fan? Did you just stop by here? Like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I've been a huge pro wrestling fan.
Should have told me you're from the WWE.
I should have said I'm scouting your bitch ass. But then they told me that they had a school there at the same venue. So when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, okay, look, I'm working 2 jobs. I just finished up school. I have a 45-minute commute to one of my jobs. But everything else is here. So like if I can work out, and at that point I was GM at Subway. So I kind of got to move my schedule around a little bit. I was like, yo, okay, if I can figure this out, I have the money, I have the patience to learn. And the trainer there, shout out Fred Avery. He trained Glacier from WCW. But he told me, he said, yo, give me 3 sessions. If you hate it, that's it. But if you love it and you can take, you know, the pain and the bumps and bruises of all of it, then we can make something happen. And after that first session, I told him, I was like, I'm in. And he was like, you're outrunning people that have like been here. And I'm like, because I want this, not because like, oh, he's been here for 6 months. Cool. He doesn't want it as much as me. So I know I'm going to work harder than him. And then it just started taking off from there. I went from training to my first out-of-state show, which was in Florida. And that was like a lot of people that come out of training are lucky to get like a 10 to 20 person crowd, depending on who's training them and where they're at. And I went to Florida and wrestled a dude that didn't speak English. So that was already a tricky thing in itself. And it was in front of a sold out house of like 6,000 people for my first show. So I was like, okay, not only do I have to like have Rosetta Stone in the back of my head to hope I can figure out what's happening, but I also need to like lock in because I'm in front of, you know, 6K people. A lot of these people are like religious fans to this promotion, so they love seeing their people, and I have to come in and make sure that I'm like the most hated person in that town. And we did it. We had a whole bunch of fun, and then it just went up from there. Damn,
that's dope. Because I've been waiting to hear about like how it all started for a while. Because like I was a pretty big wrestling fan, but like you said, kind of just grew out of it over a while. And one of the things that you said when you started to grow out of it, you're like, this is fake.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to elaborate on that, because like a lot of people know that there's some, like for me, for example, right? Like I was a fan growing up. I watched it every week, SmackDown, Raw, ECW, TNA, like all of that. And I knew to an extent, like some of it was fake, but also, like you said, you know, you got to be able to endure the bumps, the bruises, the pain that comes with it. Like you can only fake so much, I guess. Yeah. And the other part of that is you were talking about the guy didn't speak English when he wrestled. So it's like, you know, if it's scripted, quote unquote, and you guys know what's going to happen, is that like how much of that goes into it before the match versus are you guys kind of improving in the ring as it happens? Like, is it a mixture of it? I've always been really curious about that.
I'm gonna break down the whole wall right now because I've
CM Punk style.
I've actually had this conversation a lot recently because I've been getting in my like short form algorithm. I've been getting a lot of like wrestling debunkers that are like going through and be like, "Do you see this hand signal from Randy Orton? This means blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Oh, somebody needs to put it into this." So. Pro wrestling. Okay, what is our definition of fake? Let's start.
So
there
first. So I mean,
scripted. That's
but also like people word, right? think like, and I don't know the answer to this, but people think like that the chairs being used, which now to my understanding, like in the WWE specifically, like they don't do headshots,
correct,
for anymore. But some people think like, oh, the chairs aren't really made of steel or whatever, right? They're like the tables are breakaway tables, so they just break easier, like all that kind of stuff.
That's true, right?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
See, like, and stuff like that, like, you know, like you see, bro, like, not to get like super nitpicky and shit, but at The Rock specifically, like he's hammering someone in the head, right, when they're in the corner of the ring, but he's also stomping on the ring at the same time. Like, why is that?
Okay, I got
like, you know what I'm saying? There's so much to it, bro. I'm about to learn so much.
So wrestling is about as fake as football. And a lot of people are going to take that and be like, what the hell is he talking about? Wrestling isn't really particularly myself versus my opponent. It's us versus the crowd.
The crowd. It is the entertainment industry.
Correct. And in the same way in football where you learn whatever position you're in, most of what your position is like taught to you and what you learn about your position isn't technically what you do. It's how to counter your opponent on the other side of you.
That's true.
When I started playing tight end, a lot of what I was learning was how to get DBs and safeties and stuff like that off of me so I can get open, or how to be able to read their footing or their hand placement so that I can get off of them. In wrestling, it's the exact same way. You learn, of course, your moves, whatever you want to be, your signature, your finisher, whatever the dumb shit is. But the rest of it is learning how to be able to move with another body at the same time in a moment's notice. Because there are going to be times things aren't scripted, like people say. Okay. The only thing that is scripted in the wrestling world is when you have multi-million dollars of backing behind whatever it is. John Cena is like a perfect example of that. You are not going to have John Cena go on the road for 330 days out of the year and get literally punched in the mouth every single time. Yeah. He's worth way more to you for that. You need him for commercials. You need him for his movies that he's doing. You need him for Make-A-Wish. You need him for all that. Same thing with your Brock Lesnar's, your Rocks, all of your huge caliber stars. Yeah, they're going to script to protect them because they need them. They are a business asset, not just an athlete. But when it comes down, like after that superstar level, it's almost anything goes. You guys, at some levels, you get an agent that kind of listens to how you put together the match or the story that you want to tell, and you go from there.
So is who wins
not all
selected?
The time.
That was my,
not all the time.
That was my next question.
There are times, depending on what they want to protect, the storyline that they want to build, especially if it's TV. I mean, TV, you want to be able to build your narrative. And if they want a certain person to go over or something like that, it can happen. Also, that is not 100%. I've been in the ring several times where I hear from the referee, hey, we're going with a different finish. Go ahead and pin him. Cool. And like that is what it is. But so much goes into that because what happens if, and this is some of the things that people don't think about, what happens if you have a wrestler that is a true bad guy? Say he kicked a baby last show. Everyone hates him.
Yeah.
And then you have the shining, like, homegrown baby face, like everyone loves him, blah, blah, blah. And then mid-match, the crowd just loses their mind and they turn on him. And now the guy that kicked the baby is a hero. and the homegrown kid just lost his crowd, then what do? Do you go with the original plan? No, you got to work on your feet. You got to be able to communicate with that person, the referee, whoever's watching the film upstairs, the production crew. You got to communicate in that and figure out what audible is going to happen, because if you go with the original finish and say the whole purpose of this is to get the homegrown kid to like flourish and become the next champ, and the bad guy's supposed to put him over, and now that's not going to work, got to flip the script and make some things happen. So even if you sit down, and it's just like how when we brainstorm on it, on ideas and stuff, we can sit down and have everything look crispy on paper. Then we get out there and it's like,
yeah,
all right, well, we should probably switch this up. We can move this. We can bring this person here instead of over there. And that's wrestling. And it's the same thing with football player management. It's the same thing with any kind of gymnasts or performers or anything like that. You got to be able to go with the flow, because scripted means protected to me. That means if I got a call from a booker and said, hey, you are wrestling such and such, and this is how some people think it is. Shout out one of my old homies, Sugar Duncanton. You're wrestling Shug D for 15 minutes. You guys are going to do this.
That's how people think it is.
You're going to cut a promo at the end saying this. Make sure you keep it under 20 minutes, and then that's your thing. Fuck no. If that was wrestling, I now to some levels where some people try to overproduce TV and stuff like that, they get like that.
Yeah.
But when you want your
so
natural
the WWE
moments,
is like that.
To an extent, though, right? Like,
look, okay,
like
so
the main broadcast on TV, like the WWE is like that.
it's
like
pretty buttoned up. It's pretty buttoned up. You get there a couple hours early. You find out who your agent is for your match.
But
you see
that's only like 20% of the wrestling world. Like
1,000%.
Yeah. The other 80% is like what you're breaking down right now.
While we're on the WWE.
So the WWE is scripted.
In terms of scripted and shit, bro, why the fuck did they end Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania, bro? That pisses me off still to this day. Like, I would look for, like, I wasn't a huge Undertaker fan. I mean, I respect him as one of the greatest of all time for sure. But just every year at WrestleMania, he's 17-0, he's 18-0, he's 19, and then it's like, holy shit. And then the one who broke his streak was Brock Lesnar, right? I just don't know how to feel about that still. And that happened, 7-8 years ago now?
And exactly why they did that is because
people still talk about it to this day.
7-8 years from now.
And you have to think, sooner or later, someone was going to end it.
Yeah.
It was just going to happen. Whether if it was going to be his send-off for the end of his career or a send-off to that arc of his career, and then Mark wanted to do something else. But when you think of, 20-plus years at WrestleMania, the dude's not normal human size at all. He has this mystique of he can beat anybody. Who in the hell has the capabilities of beating him?
Got to be Brock.
Either Brock
because
or Rock.
when you look on that roster, you're like, look, there's superstars here, there's big guys here, there's big men here, all that. But you think of someone that's gone outside of this competition and dominated in his, and then came back.
Yeah.
Who else is going to do it? So when it happened, I was like, damn, good pick though. Good pick. Didn't waste it on nobody. It was a good pick.
That is crazy, man. I'll never forget the WrestleMania where I think he fought Shawn Michaels, and
the first or second time, Jesus Shawn Michaels in all white, or because Jesus Shawn Michaels was crazy. He just came out on.
I don't even remember, to be honest, but it was the time where Taker had like one move where he went airborne. It was like over the top ropes.
Yep.
And
dive.
Bro,
and
landed on his neck. Oh, I thought it was done for sure. Like, I thought he was not going to recover from that.
So that ref, funny story
intel,
about
bro.
that.
I love this.
That ref actually got destroyed
Afterwards?
because he was supposed to be part of the catch. So when it comes to dives are one thing that's kind of like, if you want to say is scripted in wrestling, it's damn sure pretty scripted because you have to make sure everything is in place for dives to happen.
I mean, I can tell that by watching.
Yeah. Everyone knows that moment where everyone's on the ground and then they just kind of slowly get up and
crawling over. They're like,
trust me, there's times where I'm in that moment and I'm like, okay, so-and-so's going to do a 450. Another person's going to do like a Phoenix Splash, blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm on the ground crawling to the spot. And then like I see us all come up and I'm like, we look like these assholes we always see. Hurry up and jump. Damn. And then they jump and I'm like, ah. Fuck. No one else catches me like that. I pride myself in being like the best base. So when I started training, I trained with a lot of people that were smaller than me. So I was very used to taking all of the Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, all the small guys things. I was sitting there like practicing tilt-a-whirl hurricane ranas and stuff like that. And people are like, do you know how to do a headlock? And I'm like, maybe. But I know what I can do. I can get in a match with Rey Mysterio and go crazy right now. But like learning that kind of stuff, I knew the second that like I was going to start working with people that are like very proficient in that, I was like, I'm going to be the best base for you. And anytime you jump off of anything, I'm catching you like a damn baby. Like it's going to be, okay. Easy work. And people loved that. And then I started jumping off of things. And no one was like, they're like, 275 pounds. I ain't catching none of that shit.
Hey, bro, one of the coolest things was like, you remember, what was his name? Evan Bourne?
Evan Bourne,
WWE?
man. Yeah.
And he had the, Airborne, was it?
Yeah,
was
shooting star press.
Like, yeah, it was like a backflip.
He still does it now.
Bro, seeing Randy Orton turn that into an RKO was fucking sick.
So, Evan Bourne, once he left WWE, he started going everywhere basically as like his part of his shoot name, Matt Seidel. And Matt's actually really, really cool people. One thing that everyone brings up to him at every con that he does is that RKO.
Yeah, bro.
And he's
sick.
And he even says, he was like, I thought he was going to be late because we had only did it one time because to talk about things being scripted. Things like that have so much impact. You're not fucking practicing that. You have the idea and you're like, yo, okay, so for the finish of our match, what if I go for my shooting star and then you catch me in RKO? And I'm sure Randy was probably like, cool, easy, done. Just where how crazy. Far out are you going to come? Okay, cool, easy, done.
Hey, isn't Randy Orton from St. Louis?
So, yes.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
So it's like, it's one of those things where you kind of have to have faith in yourself, but you also have to have faith in the person that you're working in to know that like, okay, when he hits the shooting star and he comes up on his third rotation, his head's going to be out, his neck's going to be out, even though he's not used to doing that. He's used to flipping over and then bracing himself for the impact. It's like, okay, I need to trust him that his head's going to be there because the only thing I'm going to have to like focus on is getting up and stepping back so I can hook it. And you don't get to practice that shit.
That shit's so crazy, bro, to think about like those big moments, like not even being practiced, but just rehearsed. Like, think back to Attitude Era days. It's like Jeff Hardy's like, all right, I'm going to be hanging from the belts. And Edge, you're gonna spear me 30 feet in the air down to the like, and they just haven't even done it yet. But they're like, this is gonna work.
Yep,
like that is crazy.
And it's so insane because the wrestling is predicated on building moments with adrenaline while you don't have it. Because when you're in the locker room and you're putting together your matches or you're talking with other competitors and stuff like that, you are literally building moments that you hope the adrenaline will fuel you through those moments, or it's not going to be like a fun time at all. There's been so many times where I would like, yeah, if you jump on me and then you jump on me, then like I'll powerbomb both of you. And I'm sitting there thinking like, if we were to do this right now in this locker room, there's no way. There's no fucking way I'd be able. But when I'm in the ring and we're 10 minutes in and I've hit somebody a few times, I'm like, fucking jump.
Yeah.
Got you. Like it's that.
How often would you say that, like, because obviously, a lot of people have stage names and they're playing a character and everything like that. How often would you say that people actually, two superstars, like actually despise each other outside of the ring too? Like, for example, John Cena, Randy Orton, they had a feud that lasted a few years, I think.
It was top tier feud.
And
too.
Yeah, they hated each other in the ring, right? But like behind the scenes, are they fucking dapping it up? Or do they actually not like each other?
So, funny story to tag on to that. When I first got into wrestling, my dad told me a story that he had went to like his first show back when like the territories were running, and like it was really dope to be able to go to a local show. And he was like, I went to this show and it was incredible, and like I had booed a man out the door and like all this, and I felt great. And then I saw the two motherfuckers getting into a limo right afterwards, and they zoomed off, and I was pissed. Yeah. And I was like, and right then, that's when wrestling died for you. So yes and no. because business is involved.
Yeah.
So there's going to be times where people just aren't fond of others. To that feud in particular, of course, that was just good business, good interaction. But it's like God, I hate to bring it up, but it's a perfect example. The Jeff, Matt, Edge, Lita, that whole thing, that was very real.
Yeah.
And that was literally Vince looking at the situation and saying,
like,
if you, well, he was like, if you guys are willing to make money off of this, then we can. But in Vince fashion. So it was more like, we're gonna book this and we're gonna get it together. Yeah. It's just like, well, fuck. Okay, if I want to keep my job, I have to put this whole thing out. But that was very much real. And sometimes if you can, I've done it personally. If there are times you can make money with some heat, make some money with some heat, because it's gonna be way more genuine. And the people that say, oh, this shit is fake, when you can get in the ring and you know that both of each other don't like each other, the one common thing is we're here to make some bread. Yeah. So as long as I don't lose any teeth, we're good. And you can go out there and get, that's one thing that I feel business is missing. When like you have a disagreement with someone or someone's done you wrong, hey, look, let's just pull up somewhere, neutral ground. Let's agree to some terms, and let's just whoop each other's ass for a little bit, and then we can call it a day, because that's really all each other need, and then we can.
And then we're good. Dude, I really feel like Jeff Hardy specifically was kind of like a scapegoat in terms of bringing his real life into the business. Like that, I feel like you brought up the Edge and Lita, and that whole triangle was crazy. And then Jeff had the feud with Matt over like. Jeff's house burnt down, which really happened. His dog died, which really happened. He got in a car accident, which really happened. And then Jeff actually got in a car accident, but then they were like, oh, that was Matt that ran him off the road. That kind of shit. His problems with substance abuse multiple times, they bring that into, and ultimately that's why he retired from WWE for all of those years, because CM Punk was like straight edge lifestyle, using that, you know what I mean? Like they just brought his shit into the light so many times compared to a lot of other people, I feel like.
Well, I think what part of the reason for that is because Jeff is a very tangible person. Meeting him and watching him for years, it's one of those things where once I met him, I felt that I already knew him, because he's just playing an extension of himself in the ring. Same thing with Matt. Very, very, both of them are very super down to earth. I fucking love them. They're the best. They've always treated me well. So I have no ill words at all. But when you have very tangible people like that in wrestling, they're going to shift the mentality of, for instance, a John Cena that seems so like top of the hierarchy, that his real life doesn't get brought into a lot of things, because the closest thing to his real life was him loving rap music, and then they made a gimmick off of that, and I still think that was like the most traction that he had ever had in a live audience since. And now he's global. Of course he has his traction. Right. But it's the same thing with Jeff. Like they started to lean more into his personal life because people were just tangibly excited to see Jeff, not necessarily like the Swanton Bomb, even though they loved seeing the Swanton. It's like, we love seeing Jeff overcome all these situations. There was a point in time where Jeff was being terrorized on weekly television. I remember he came out and did his intro, and his pyro fucking blew up, and part of the angle was like his face got burnt and all that. And I'm like, y'all are making this man's life a living hell. It's good television, though. It is excellent television. But people loved seeing Jeff go through those fight from the ground all the way up. Everyone hated seeing Jeff being in like him versus Rey Mysterio. It's like, it's a fun match, but put him against fucking Batista. Let's see him. Or
Jeff was always like the little guy that's fighting bigger dudes. When
he won the WWE title at Armageddon, I think that was 2008. But it was a triple threat. It was Triple H, Edge, and
I cried watching that shit, bro.
I picked up my house phone and called a friend at like 11:30 midnight, whatever, after paying $60 for this pay-per-view that my parents later like beat my ass over, because I was just like, I can get this for $60. It's on.
Yup.
no one's gonna talk about this. I didn't need to verify nothing. Man, this is just criminal behavior right here. But I watched the whole thing, and it was incredible. And then that next, I think it was SmackDown. That next SmackDown where he came out as the champ, and the fucking pyro presentation and all that. It was nuts.
Man,
I had my little Hardy T-shirt and my bands and all that. I was in there.
Good times, bro. I could sit here and talk about wrestling forever, but you know, fast forward a few years, you're doing the thing, and then boom, COVID happens, shuts down the world, and I imagine that made traveling for wrestling pretty difficult. The reason I bring that up is because I found out yesterday that you were making some beats at the start of the pandemic. And bro, low key, you only had 2 on there, I believe. I peeped 2 of your beats.
Oh, you went to my SoundCloud?
Yep, sure did. Armour Beats, baby.
Armour Beats.
No, but I listened to them and they were good, bro. Like, I wanted to ask you, is that something that you see yourself doing more of in the future? Was that just kind of a thing to kill the time when the world was shut down? Like,
damn. So I've been producing music for a very long time.
Okay.
I first started like self-producing music when I was maybe 14. I was on my dad's very terrible desktop with Windows 98 and a cracked version of like Fruity Loops 8 or some shit like that. And I just started making beats, and I thought it was cool for a moment, but then like I started thinking about different textures and stuff like that I wanted in songs. So then I started implementing my saxophone and like recording sax while putting beats on it. And then as I started to teach myself drums and guitar, like I'm starting to morph those ideas in. As I started getting into band, I understood composition of music a whole lot better. And now I'm able to like construct full like arrangements and songs and all of that. And I fell in love with it. So that started to go for a very long time. I got my first laptop, and it was a Dell Studio 1735, 17-inch screen, like fingerprint reader, media, touch controls. Like it was like the first time a laptop was like that.
Yep.
And then that turned into like my production laptop. I took that thing everywhere, even though it was 17. It barely fit into my backpack, but I didn't give a fuck. And I took inspiration from anything. I would take the little built-in mic, and if I heard something that was dope, I would just like record it. And then later on, when I got back home, like I would sample it in something. So that went on for a very long time until work, wrestling, like all that. When the pandemic pulled around, I was bored. And I didn't really know what to do with my creativity at that time. So I just downloaded an app on my iPad, and those 2 beats are solely just from an app when I was bored, and I just like,
hell yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with it, and it's been something to where I've said like, you know, if I get the equipment back or if I get the time back, like I would definitely love to get back into music. I have a few people that have already like used my stuff in, whether if it's commercials, ads, a few like mixtapes and stuff like that that's been out there. So it's like I know the plugs and what I can do and what I can do with it. But I also just have a sound bank of non-copyrighted music that I can use for literally anything. So
I just think it's funny because I saw that and my mind instantly went to, damn, Sam was making beats back in the day too. Matt has a track out there.
I do have a track out there.
You got to hear that shit. Bro.
Yes, I do.
That shit does go.
Wasn't there someone else on your team that like made music or like experimented with beats or
Quincy?
Is it Quincy?
Yeah.
That don't surprise me.
Quincy has shot multiple music videos.
Yeah.
Like I know he shot for Strange Music.
Yeah.
And Tech 9. That's just wild.
I feel like there was somebody else, but I don't know. But it's funny because like looking back, we all are able to do this. Well, almost all of us are able to do this full time now, and that's eventually the goal. But we all started creating something that made us feel passionate about being creative.
Yeah.
For some of us, it was music. For some of us, it was like, you can go back and look at mine and Eddie's YouTube live commentaries when we were 10 years old. Like, so that's just super cool, man. I wanted to see kind of, you know, was that something you were bored, or you said you've been doing it for a long time. So that's dope. I didn't put these notes in Notion because I didn't want you to be able to see them.
Okay.
But we do have a few other things to talk about.
I have to go piss like really bad.
Go for it.
Okay,
You can just
you can just keep going.
Okay.
Honestly,
I think Formal took a shit in the middle of the podcast one time. They just kept it going. So, so we talked about you kind of moved all over the place when you moved to the States. You've been everywhere, but it's kind of ironic, but also symbolic, I guess I would say, that you ended up in Kansas City because your uncle played for the Chiefs from 92 to 95.
Yeah.
So you've talked about you've always been a Chiefs fan growing up. It's the only team you knew how to root for. Would you say that Kansas City is home? Would you say that Atlanta still has some home aspects to it? Like, what is it for you?
I am very much the person where I think home is a personal perspective.
Yep.
I don't think it's a actual location. I think it's where you feel the most like connected to yourself.
Home is where the heart is.
And not to be Hallmark, but that is
100%
to me the case, because as much as I hate it sometimes, and I think I even voiced that this morning when I showed you that clip, as much as I hate Georgia at times, there are buildings in Georgia that have my name engraved in them that like of things that I've done.
Yeah.
That's something that many people that go through as a travel spot or an attraction thing, like so many people pass through Atlanta, they will never have that. I know that I was able to do that in a city where my dad was raised, in a city where so much of my dad's family is from.
That's where the roots are.
Right. And like now I get to do the other half here where all of my mom's family is. So it's like I feel that I have that duality of home, but it's like in both of those places.
Makes sense.
Because I've been here 2 years. I absolutely love it. Like outside of some very wild things that have happened, I will say in Georgia, I was never shot at, pointed a gun at a few times, but never shot at. Kansas City got that away with real quick. It was like first year in, and it was like
3 a.m.
You outside real late. Pow, pow. What is going on?
Yeah, that is crazy.
But I will say that home is this is definitely a piece of home for me for sure.
It's gonna get better. The gun violence will stop.
Well, yeah, because weed's gonna get.
What do you mean by that? No.
Yeah, bro.
Would you say that for you, Kansas City is home?
Yeah.
Not
bro, fuck Carthage and Joplin, Missouri,
man.
Dude,
fuck
like
Topeka.
how you felt, how Georgia was just in its own time capsule.
Yeah.
Is literally how it is 2 hours away.
Living
from
in
here.
the 1800s, bro.
Bro, like I was surrounded by rednecks, people that don't like use social media that much, unless it was like the people I went to school with.
Right.
But even them, like, you're working in video games?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Right.
Like, what are you, a pro?
You still doing that computer thing?
Yeah.
Dude, I literally got that from a family member 3 months ago. Are you still doing that computer thing?
Nah, yeah, and like everybody's like stuck in like the old days of American dream where they're like work a fucking 9 to 5, raise a family there in their hometown, get a wife, get a kid, ruin their life by the time they're 25.
I think
because, bro, I'm sorry, I don't mean to go down this tangent and cut you off, but, bro, like, if you're locked up with a kid by the time you're 20, which I know so many people, bro.
Hey, but some people prefer, like...
I get it, bro. You shouldn't, bro. You shouldn't prefer that.
I would say
if you have a kid before you can drink alcohol, that's fucked up.
Is there a correlation? I don't know.
That's a wild situation.
I would say that, like, it makes things more difficult, but like once the kid is there and you obviously love that kid, like you can't imagine life without it. You wouldn't have it any other way.
I get that. No, bro, no shot that there's not a lingering feeling in the back of some of these early dads' heads that, like, man, I wish I wouldn't have. I don't know. I wish I would have wrapped it up.
I'm sure that's actually a majority of, and this is gonna sound wild, but working in the bar industry as long as I did, I ran into a lot of early or single fathers that like kind of had that same thought. Mainly it was just because they probably found themselves in a situation where they were just out late and probably were with the person that they didn't expect to have a child with or whatever it may be. But what I loved in meeting those people, that all of them were still very heavily involved with their children. None of them ever felt that it was like something that they needed to take back. It was like, okay, this wasn't part of the plan, but I'm going to make the best of it. And I think that isn't celebrated enough, because it's so easy to talk about a run out or a deadbeat dad or a father that's not there or anything like that. But to celebrate the people that, even though it wasn't in their plans, they still made it their plan, I have nothing but love for.
That's exactly what I was going to say, bro. Because, like, moving back to Topeka, talking to a lot of old friends that I haven't seen in a few years and shit, there's a lot of single moms in Topeka that are my age or younger or just a few years older. So, like, what I was going to say is, if you do have a kid, regardless of the age, own that shit. Yeah. And because, bro, like, you see what happens to kids that don't have their fathers in their lives.
Yeah,
like,
and
they have a lot harder lives.
And even some kids that are privileged and they have, like, access to resources, which is what I want my kid to be like, but I'm not going to be that rich prick of a father that, like, there's some kids that have rich parents that aren't around at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they have unlimited money.
And that's not good. And
they hire a nanny, and they're like, your nanny is your parent. Yeah.
Three people that don't have kids giving parenting advice. I'm just kidding.
I don't know what it is though, but I lived with some people that had some kids, and I low key feel like I would be a better parent than some.
Bro, I mean, I've seen horrible parents
than some of the parenting I've seen.
So, to each their own. But shout out Crow Gaming, who just announced today that we're shooting this, that he's having. Yeah. They're expecting their first kid.
But Crow's in a great situation. Like, that's a great example of when I would want to have a kid.
And Crow's going to be a great father.
Like, you're bagged up. You are already old. You've been through the Army. Like, you have never mind. Yeah. You have a great life.
All right. So we got two more things here.
Okay.
We'll wrap things up. But your first ever IG caption. Okay. Do you happen to know what it is, just off the top of your head?
It depends on which IG we're speaking of.
The one that is GameArmourGame.
Oh, okay.
Damn, there's another one. I didn't go hard enough yesterday.
Yeah, you didn't go hard enough.
Kingston Robinson IG.
Bro, you didn't type in Kingston Robinson into.
Bro, who has two IG? Like,
I have two IGs.
Bro,
business
and professional.
I have my personal.
You have Matt Ness and Mr. Nobody.
Nah, I have this old one that was a meme account that I was growing on Instagram
but you don't
back
use
in
it.
the day. No, not anymore.
Do you still use Kingston Robinson?
No.
Okay. Anyways.
Yeah.
On GameArmourGame, your first Instagram caption was, "Sometimes you can watch history, other times you can be part of it." And I feel like it relates, and it's something to speak on, because we always talk about that it's going to take us 5 years to build something that lasts the next 50. Like, we want to build Pioneers to the point where, we're all dead and gone, and Pioneers is still flourishing. And we are the ones building that. The people who founded the Chiefs, the Royals, whoever, that have been around for as long as they have been.
They're old.
They're either old or they're not alive anymore.
Yeah.
And look at those teams.
Yep.
So
or their son is the owner of a very good Chiefs team.
Exactly.
And
so
isn't he like the NFL commissioner?
No, Lamar Hunt was like, back then it was like the AFL before it was the NFL, or there was the AFL and the NFL, and there was a merger.
But doesn't Clark Hunt run the NFL, or am I tweaking on that?
No, he has a seat on the board, but
oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And the trophy's named after, bro. That's gotta be badass, dude. Your last name is the Super Bowl trophy,
saying, bro.
That's why it's so personal. When people come now that we can actually, like,
claim
win and defend the Lamar Hunt trophy. That's why it's so personal, because it's like, look, no one else in the AFC can say that this trophy is named after a former owner of the team, let alone someone that brought this team here and renamed it and brought it to success almost immediately.
That's facts. So with that quote, like, it just speaks volumes as to what we're doing.
Did I have a picture of what was that Union Station? I'll pull it
up real quick.
I think it was a picture here.
I think it was, which makes it even more, relatable. Yep. Literally just the downtown skyline from the World War I monument.
How long ago?
This was from March 21st, 2021.
So
2 years ago.
So
is that when you moved here?
I didn't move here yet, but
he knew it was coming.
I had flown here to see.
So that's probably when you took that photo.
No, yeah, that's exactly when that.
And at the time, I had been part of Pioneers for a little over a year, or a little under a year, and I just became director of ops at the time. You were on the team for about 6 months at the time.
Yeah.
And, like, it was happening, but it wasn't what it is right now. And you probably had no idea that you were going to be part of it at some point. Maybe you did. I don't know.
Then, I don't want to say be a part of. I knew that business would align. Being a part of, I didn't really think was going to happen until like after I moved. And I got, set up and acclimated, and I started to see how things were trending in both of our respective business endeavors. And I was like, you know what? Why am I sitting here looking across the fence like if all this doesn't line up perfectly for what I want to do? So after seeing that, like I started getting more engaged. I started reaching out. To the point, and I'm gonna be real. I was thirsty for a minute there. I would like send a DM on IG, and I'd be like, they ain't get it. I'm gonna send it on Twitter. They ain't get it. I'm gonna jump in this comment thread real quick. Oh, they saw that. Okay, cool. Maybe they'll go to the DM. I'll refresh it. I'll send another one. Mainly because I know if I'm set on this is what I want to do. It aligns with like my personal beliefs, what I want to do as far as an endeavor or whatever. I'm locked in on it. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. I've never looked at something I wanted to do and be like, well, maybe if it's just like when I got told, hey, you too big to be a wrestler. You should. Once I figured out the schedule, bro, let's get into a ring. I got into that. Now, granted, after I got out of the ring and like I did the whole like, yeah, I can do this ball. I sat in my car for 45 minutes and did not move.
Oh, I bet.
Because like it went from, oh, okay, you can run the ropes. Okay, cool. You got some cardio in you. And then like you take your first bump and you're like, this is not the padded, springy thing that everyone talks about. Oh, shit. Okay, cool. And then to find out each bump is like getting into a car wreck that's 36 miles per hour or, yeah. Like there's an actual, so every time you hit this mat that everyone thinks is like memory foam and blah, 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 you're getting into a 30 mile per hour car wreck.
That's crazy.
And you could do that from 5 to 30 times a match. It just depends. And this doesn't even account the like diving and the apron bumps and suplexes I've taken on the floor, chairs that people say that are fake that were thrown at me by Sabu, ECW legend. They're not fake. They hurt like shit. The tables, they are not pre-cut or anything. The only thing WWE used to do, on the old fold-up tables, they would have that like security metal like plastic ring around it.
Yeah.
So after a while, they started to take those off because they would spray up and like stab whoever goes through the table. So it's meant to be a brace for the table. So when it would break in half, those old things would just stab you in the arm, stab you in the back, or whatever. So they would take those out. But other than that, ain't nobody pre-cutting the table. You do a pre-cut table and then someone else falls through, or you're fighting up top and then maybe a piece of someone's gear falls through and then it
falls. You're like, nah,
business is ruined.
Yeah, and it's almost like a complete table might be better.
Oh, it always is
because
it breaks naturally.
Yeah, instead of like just falling straight to the ground.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to you moving here, you said, before you kind of knew you'd be part of it, that business would align somewhat. There's two things I wanted to say on that. First one being, first impressions are everything to someone like myself. I don't know if Matt feels the same, but like when we go to events, whether it's a major for an esport or a TwitchCon or whatever, we meet a lot of different people. And a lot of times that first impression can like set the vibe for our relationship moving forward. Like I'll talk to someone and be like, okay, this person's dope. Like they're good people. And I'll sometimes be like, oh, this person, they're cool, but I don't see us really working together in the future. Not anybody in particular, but I'm just saying. First impression from you was obviously we had conversations online. We'd hang out in each other's streams a little bit.
Yeah. And
we always kind of had a similar mindset. I noticed pretty much immediately, and then we got together for lunch one day, and our like what we were planning on being there for an hour turned into like 4. Because we just had so much to talk about and so many similar things. And then I was just like instantly, I got to get this guy on the team. So then I don't remember how much time passed afterwards, but after talking to Sam and shit, I was like, do I have the green light for Kingston? He's like, yep. And so I called you, and I'm still pissed at myself for not recording this call, bro. Because I was like, hey, bro, are you busy? And he's like, no, I'm chilling. I was like, what's up? He's like, I was like, do you want to join Pioneers? And he just fucking started bursting out laughing, bro. Like, it was incredible. It was just such a good moment. And I'll forever be mad at myself for not capturing that. I'm never not going to capture that moment again. But yeah, it was all because of first impression, man. Same with Jabberwocky, bro. Like, it's kind of a similar thing where we had great conversations online, and went out. I met his son and his wife. They're also expecting another baby. But we just had a really good time. And he's a Pioneer. You know, I think that one probably was like a year later after I had known the guy. But first impressions mean a lot, for sure, when taking into account, like, who's going to be on this team.
Yeah. No, I think, first impressions in business, to me, are a huge thing. Really, in any relationship. Forget business. Any relationship. Whether if it's a friendship, a business association, just like a one-off, because I learned this from a really good friend of mine. He would plan his trips, but he would like draft the people that are going, depending on the like location and what he wants to do. Because he's like, I can't say, yo, I want to bring all my friends to DR, because not all of them like the beach. So like, I'm going to craft this crew around me that all beach lovers love tropical drinks, like all this, to create the vibe. And it's like, as long as you are honest and transparent with yourself, you're going to find people that are also the same way and that you guys can also coexist with. But you have to be real with them right up front. And those first impressions tell you everything. And if you aren't real with you, you're going to be the one walking around saying, oh, people are fake. Oh, all they do is talk trash, this and that, because that's what you're attracting. You're not even real with yourself. So that's why, like, when it comes to being able to meet up and like kick the shit and shit's just rolling and it feels good and you're able to have a good conversation, eat some good food, like all that, right then lets you know that, like, okay, now our communication can go from like maybe just like one-offs every once in a while to like, oh, we could collab on something, or oh, we could go out and like do an activity or some shit. Like, all of that starts to level up. And I mean, shit, I've been turned down in my first impressions a lot. And to most of those people, I would like to formally say you ain't shit. But that's only because I've outworked all of them. I see no reason to have a vendetta against anyone that like has met me and been like, damn, Kingston's a jackass. I'm like, well, it's probably because you gave me that same energy.
Yeah, that's facts. I know a lot of people have that impression about me, but it is what it is. Just because it's the same thing. It's like, you know, I don't like you, you probably don't like me, and it is what it is. You can't please everybody.
No, and I've spent too much of my life, because I was fortunate enough to skip grades and get through school a little bit faster, mainly because my parents were just like, yo, I'm extremely fortunate for my parents, because one, they were like, hey, the faster you get done with school, like, go do whatever. And I was like, wait, that's it? And they're like, you get through with school and you do it well, yeah, we're going to trust you to do whatever you want to do in life. I was like, okay, bet. And I got through school in a millisecond, to the point where, like, not only did I skip grades, so I was used to like being the youngest person in every class, but then I started dual enrollment and got into college while I was finishing up high school as well. So I went from like people being 1 to 2 years older than me to me leaving high school, going to campus and like seeing people of all ages and having to coexist in that. And that really started sharpening the tool for like me being able to talk to and communicate, no matter if you're 15 or if you're 75, like I can communicate with you in some aspect. And when I got my first like real boy job and moved into management and all that, I was 18. I walked into a store where there were people like 45 and they've been here for 10 years. And I'm like, okay, you've been here for 10 years, but you've been stealing, you've been skimping from the register, inventory is always off. No one's doing good here. They just been here. And I wiped that whole team, and I had to have very hard discussions with people that could have been my mom or dad and be like, you're just not good for right here.
Bro is speaking my language right now, bro. Like, same shit.
Yeah, and to me, it doesn't matter how old you are. Actually, it does. Because the older you are, the more reason you have to not do dumb shit, and you still continue to do it. So that's really your own ignorance. But If someone like me who knows my bonuses are affected by you, my weekly pay is affected by you, the amount of times I have to pick up the phone and hear from my DO about something missing or something wrong or a catering order that didn't go out or whatever, that's all on me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to eliminate the problem. And the problem has no emotional attachment to it. Sorry about it. You probably should have thought about your kids or your house or your cell phone bill or whatever when you were pocketing Black Forest ham to go make sandwiches at home. Like, what are we doing at this point?
That's facts.
But it's real. And I think professionally cutting your teeth like that and having to have those hard conversations makes it so much easier later, because then, like, in the 2.5 years, a little bit. Actually, that was March, right? So, 2 years since being here, I've sat at a handful of tables and talked to a lot of people that didn't know who I was then, now know who I am now, and are going to be pissed to know who I am in like 2 years.
Facts.
But, like, I don't care, because they had their chances to be alongside of the ride, and they just decided to be like, oh, this is what I do, or this is what I've always done, or that was a great idea, I'll run with that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool and great. But when the clock goes around, I already know what's going to happen. And I'm here for it. I love being here. Like I said, Kansas City is definitely an extension of home, because if someone were to say where I'm from now, I say I'm born in Germany.
Yeah.
I was raised in East Atlanta. But I know in a few years it's going to be like, probably won't even say the born in Germany part. I'd be like, I grew up in the South, and now I live here in KC. And to be able to represent both of the sides of my family and, like, the impact that I've had, I can't ask for any more.
It's facts. And then speaking of Kansas City, last but not least, we have an old tweet that I found. And as old, I mean 2020, so 3 years ago. You said, "Hey, yo, I'm trying to get drunk while watching 2015 Chiefs games." Now, and I'm just curious, because I'm really curious, because this is after we win the Super Bowl. This is going into the following season.
Yeah.
This is about a month or so in, so Pat is doing his thing. And in my opinion, being drunk makes you emotional, whether that's happy, sad, whatever. Your real emotions come. Why would you choose 2015 Chiefs to watch while you're drunk?
So, backstory on this. I tweeted that? Godly. Okay, I was on one. One, drinking for me isn't really as emotionally invoking for me than it is for other people, because I didn't start drinking until I was 22.
Yep.
In that time, I was working in the bar industry for about a year and a half. And everyone thought I was this weird anomaly that was, like, behind the bar, didn't drink, and bar guests hated it because they were like, "Oh, what do you think of such and such cocktail?" I'm like, I have no idea. I don't drink any of this. And plus, I started off as a bar back, so I can't make your drinks anyways. Like, I'm washing glasses, I'm prepping the bar. But I started to notice that my personality was actually getting in the way of me making money, because I had this personality where people wanted to come and talk to me and buy drinks and hang out. But I was like, I'm a bar back, I don't drink, I just put my head down and work. So then I started to take notes from some of the bartenders. They obviously wanted me on the crew too, because they're like, adding you, we're going to make more money, everybody's going to be a vibe. So started bartending, but then with that started hanging out with them and drinking a whole lot and all of that. So it started to become very casual to wake up at 3 p.m., go to the gym, go to work at like 6, drink through the entire shift, close the bar down at 2:30 in the morning, then go to our normal bar afterwards, drink, and then find somebody's place to go to, drink until like 5, 6, crash there, wake up, and do it all over again. And that got to the point where it was like, damn, I can drink while I work. I cannot sleep. I can just drink a Red Bull with some Jameson in it and just be right back on my day. So drinking became kind of like just like gasoline. It didn't even become like a when some people are sad, they're like, oh, let me pop a bottle of wine. Or when
Yeah.
people want to get lit, and vodka Red Bull or a couple shots of tequila. For me, especially now, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I can pour me a glass of whiskey and like just chill and hang out. But on that tip, I found a YouTube channel that just started uploading from like, I think it was like 2010 on like full Chiefs games, no commercials, just full games on YouTube. And I was like, yo, there's nothing going on right now. I'm going to buy a couple bottles and I'm just going to sit here and have me a little Chiefs day, watch some retro footage and appreciate, look at me, and appreciate where we've come from.
Yeah.
Because there are people now that have seen the past 5 to 6 years of, and I'm putting 5 to 6 because I'm including that last year of Alex Smith's career. They see the success that we've had and completely forget that we used to be one of those poverty franchises.
The povertiest of
We used to be
poverty,
literally probably the worst team in the NFL.
There were years where we were the worst team in the NFL.
There were times where I would go out of my way to get a Chiefs game on in my household, knowing that a family member of ours used to play for the team. And my dad would be like, we ain't watching that shit. We going to put the Falcons on. The Falcons! So, yeah, there's times where I like to sit back because we've
now
had
we're the star game to watch every weekend.
Facts.
it's just
Came a long way, man. There's been
It used to be the Patriots. That's I remember the Patriots area.
But see, that's the thing. The Patriots era was great because of their dominance, not because of how exciting they were to watch.
Yeah.
That's the thing,
You
bro.
know?
Like you had another tweet. I think this one was pretty recent because it's fresh in my brain. But you said, now you see why Chiefs fans get bored watching other teams.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, like I'll watch other playoff games.
Yeah.
But you will never catch me watching another regular season NFL game that's not the Chiefs because it's just boring, bro. They don't do the shit that we do.
And there's times in the game where, like, if you've seen enough football, you know what's going to happen. Like, if someone's down by 14 and there's 5 minutes left, you're like, this game is probably over. I can switch to the next one. You cannot do that with the Chiefs.
Yeah, bro, that's true.
Like, you just can't. And that's what gives each play so much more value to watch versus watching the Raiders.
Yep.
Because, like, the Raiders, you know, if they collapse, there's no fucking comeback from that. But for us, it's like, oh, it's the first quarter and we're down by 35. We'll be fine.
Literally,
When have
bro.
we ever been able to, like, proudly proclaim that?
Just this morning, I was watching in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady. We were down 31-9 in the fourth quarter, and even Tony Romo analyzing was like, if they can score here, they're still in it. It's like no other team is still in it. 31-9 against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Granted, we didn't make the comeback, but the fact that everybody is recognizing that we're still in it with that little time left, I think it sparked from just the downfall of the Houston Texans. Like they have not been the same team since we made the 24-point comeback in the playoffs.
Poverty franchises.
We sent them into a very just downward spiral, and they have not been the same since. But that about covers everything that I had for the episode. What'd you think? It was pretty solid prep.
yeah,
I don't know, bro.
you did your thing.
You've definitely inspired me to come up with some better prep since I was in the hot seat the last time, and I was like, damn, this man went crazy. But that's about it this week. Thank you all for listening or watching episode number 8 of the Main Story Podcast. As always, leave a comment. Let us know what you like to hear us talk about. This has been Nick Rich, Matt Ness, and Adrian Armour. And we will catch you in the next one.
Peace. Deuces.
Perfect.
It's your boy, GameArmourGame, a.k.a. Adrian Armour, a.k.a. Kingston Robinson, a.k.a. the longest reigning champion of the Southeast to this day. Go tell your mother.